if we allow what I understand the green light that this bill will give, it will allow in Fort Smith, Arkansas, it will allow 6 out of the 13 justices of the peace in Fort Smith to meet on secret email chains, private text messages, or behind closed doors out of the view of the tax-paying public. 6 of them can meet per this bill. That's less than a quorum. And then they can turn around and 3 more of them can meet secretly. And then, as the Supreme Court has said over and over in its opinions, interpreting this law and asking the legislature to make their decision, they've said the public is entitled to not only see the decision, we're entitled to see the whys. We're entitled to see the sausage making. Because if we don't, and here's the point, if we don't see the sausage making, then guess who is going to take the criticism? If they come in and they've already made their decision, there's no discussion, the hard discussions have been done at McDonald's or on secret email chains, the public body is going to take the backlash. And that's what the Supreme Court said. I want to talk about the intent of the 1967 FOIA law. And what I want you to understand is this decision that you will make today is literally, not figuratively, the biggest decision that will ever be made as an attack on the Freedom of Information Act. In my opinion, we lose our freedom depending on how this vote goes, because we have 2 parts of the Freedom of Information Act: open records, which is not a subject to this conversation, and open meetings. And if we give the ability for our local officials 6 out of 13 to meet and then 3 more to meet, I'm sorry, but that's secrecy. And the public is not a part of that. We're not asking anything other than public decisions be made in public. And I understand this legislative body is not subject to FOIA. In 1967, a Republican governor by the name of Winthrop Rockefeller got the FOIA passed in a legislature which was all Democrats, and he was a Republican. And I think he would turn over in his grave today if he thought that we were going to undo the open meeting section of this bill. And I want to read for you, because I think it's so important, the legislative intent in 1967. And I think every decision that is made with regard to FOIA, particularly defining a meeting and decision, this is the gold standard. It's the absolute gold standard. It's the 1967 legislative intent of the Freedom of Information Act. It says, and this is important, it is vital in a democratic society that public business be performed in an open and public manner, that the electors, that's us, the people, shall be advised of the performance of public officials, and the decisions are reached in public activity and in public policy making. So what that's saying is we need to be able, the people, this is the people's law, that's what they call it. After today, are we going to call it the special interest law? But I want to continue with the legislative intent. They say, toward this end, this act is adopted, making it possible for them, the people, or their representatives to learn and report fully the activities of their public officials. How is the media going to report fully the activities of our public officials, our JPs, our city councilors, if they're having secret meetings, if 6 out of 13 can meet behind closed doors? That's so important, and that's the legislative intent. We have to do our business in public. If we don't have transparency, it leads to this, distrust. It leads to distrust of government. And I think that is so important. We need efficiency, as Ms. Bentley said, but we have to have I mean, think of what Patrick Henry said. Think of what the legislative intent says. It's vital to a democratic society that we do our business in an open and public manner. And that's why I think it's so important that this bill come before the FOIA task force. I took three FOIA bills. I took them 2 times to the FOIA Coalition. I got feedback from the brightest of the bright, Robert Steinbuck, lawyers, people from the press, and they told me how to make them better bills. Then last Friday, we took them to the FOIA Coalition. The FOIA Task Force. I got more feedback. And we haven't even seen this bill. A bill that could dismantle the open meetings portion of FOIA. That just can't be right. We've seen all kinds of bills that just touch on FOIA. I've been in committee meetings for the last 4 years. The last 4 years on every variety that touched on the Freedom of Information Act. This is the most important one. It needs to be vetted. I'm almost finished.